Welcome to the WWE Podcast, your number one source for the latest in WWE news and straightforward analysis. Are you ready to get this thing going?
Give me a hell yeah! I said give me a hell yeah!
Then let's get this show started right now.
All right, well, it is that time to hear from you, the listener. Your opinions, comments, rants. This is all about you guys. So we're going to get to that just a second. But first, if you haven't checked out Zach Smith's new podcast called Random Wrestling, I'd really recommend you do that. Just want to plug it quick because he does such a great job at the NXT show that, you know, he's on his own, doing his own show, and I want to make sure that you guys check it out because he is really good at what he does, and I'd really recommend you check it out. Random Wrestling is the name of the podcast. You can find it anywhere, right? Anywhere, Apple, Spreaker, Spotify, anywhere you find this show, you can find Random Wrestling. Give him some love, give him a subscribe, and a rating if you can. It really will help him start to move in the rankings that I know are very, very difficult to do without your support. So check out Random Wrestling. He'll be doing his NXT show here, but also exclusive shows that aren't here. He already has one that's not on this feed over there at Random Wrestling. Okay, so it's time to hear from you guys. So let's start out with the emails, and then at the back end of the show, we'll get to your voicemails, and boy, do I have a few of those as we are in the Elimination Chamber week. As expected, the volume of your opinions and your voicemails have increased, but that's, again, to be expected. Okay, first email up is from Terry. Terry from Springfield, Tennessee. What are your thoughts on Lesnar returning to face Drew at Mania? Or, I hate to say it because I despise him as a wrestler, Jinder Mahal. And also, isn't it ironic that Vince broke up the Iconics to give Peyton Royce a push, but Billy Kay is far more entertaining? And what about Bo Dallas joining his brother in the Firefly Funhouse? Let him keep his goofy Bo Leave me gimmick, but give him a vicious alter ego, and Lashley deserves a title run. Whoa. Terry, you are just peppering me with stuff. Okay, so there's a lot here. And I do want to touch on everything, but I won't go into super depth because there's a lot of other emails and calls to get to. So I'll say this. Brock Lesnar returning. Do I think there's a chance? I think I'd give it a 50-50 chance that Brock Lesnar returns for WrestleMania. If he returns to WrestleMania, the only thing you can do is put him with Drew McIntyre as a redemption story for Lesnar, at least an attempted one. I don't think Jinder Mahal is a good fit. Yes, he has the body, but that's about it with Jinder. That's all Jinder's ever really had is the outstanding, crazy good physique. I mean, his physique, it's otherworldly. So props to Jinder Mahal for the incredible amount of work. And he may look like a beast, but in the perception of fans' minds in terms of wrestling, you would think there's no way in hell that he could beat Brock Lesnar. I would give it a 1 in 1,000 chance. Drew at Mania, I'd give like a 1 in 3 or 1 in 4 chance. So there's your answer to that. Yes, I think it's ironic that the Iconics... How about the ironic Iconics? That Vince broke them up just to have Peyton Royce get a push that has not happened and put her back in tag teams that don't make sense. And then Billie Kay she is far more entertaining. There's no question. I have praised her week after week of just this hopeless girl that is desperate to find a connection with somebody and will do anything, put anything on her resume to fit in. And it's entertaining as hell. I agree. Bo Dallas joining his brother in the Firefly Funhouse. Maybe. The Bo Leave thing, he's got a creepy smile to begin with. I could see that fitting. And I think that Bo Dallas was sorely underutilized when he was in at least a somewhat prominent position in WWE. And now, my God, he's all been but forgotten. I could see that. Yeah. And Lashley deserves a title run. Amen, brother. Absolutely, he does. And there's no better time than when he's got MVP as a mouthpiece, because that's been the biggest criticism of Lashley is he can't get a good promo. He can't talk. He can't. And luckily for him, he's really good in the ring and got a monster physique. So he's had that going for him, and he can cut very basic promos, but he's got MVP to pick up the slack. No better time. Totally agree. Thank you so much, Terry. And let's see here. Let's get to our next email, and this is from Petra, and she says, "Hey Matt, it's Petra again. I just wanted to talk about Jeff Hardy. My first point is that I just think he should retire. He's a great wrestler, but look at what he's been doing lately. He hasn't won a match in like months. My second point is the bumps he takes, the one where he hits his head on the stairs. I had a mini heart attack. Even him coming out to the right, he just looks old and tired. My third and last point is, does WWE even have anything for him to do? It is like they have run out of talent. At least that is what it seems like to me. Thanks for your time. Bye." So thank you so much for your email. As always, Jeff Hardy, I don't want to say he's hard to watch. I don't think he's an embarrassment. He's not a shell of himself. He's slowed down, but who the hell wouldn't after 20 years of throwing yourself on the ground? I think he is a legacy star that never will have a massive title run again, but will be there as star power to help build the younger talent and get victories that mean something on the younger talent's way up the chain. That's what Jeff Hardy's role is and should be. That's tradition. That's the respect cycle in professional wrestling. As you age and as it becomes apparent that you are no longer the focus of the company and the companies help make you what you are and give you the life that you have, it just comes with the territory that you give back. And Jeff Hardy's in the give back portion of his career. And there's no shame in that. There's no shame in that. And I don't think that he's overstaying his welcome, because I think he's still a very solid performer in the ring. And he's still, I think, is good in the ring. I don't think he's an embarrassment. But that all said, I agree about that bump he had on the stairs. He could have easily, and let's be frank about it, died. Easily. One wrong move, one fraction of an inch this way or that way, and catastrophic results. That was scary as hell. I think everybody would agree with that. Yes, absolutely. So yeah, he hasn't won a match in months though, and then they put him in a chamber. That makes sense, right? Monday Night Raw just awards people based on their past credentials, where SmackDown actually makes sense and rewards them on their current efforts. Which is what it should be. Outside of two opponents or two contenders in the chamber on SmackDown, all of them had to earn their spot. I like that. I don't just like indiscriminately picking people because they used to be champions. Okay, that's not now, right? That's a terrible logic for putting people into the chamber. So I agree with that. And your last point, does WWE even have anything to do? I think I answered that about where he is, what his role is at this point in his career. He's in the give back role. Again, there's no shame in that at all. Undertaker went through it. Austin did the favors on the way out in his very last match. Rock did the favors to John Cena in his last match, to date anyway. He's not officially retired. John Cena, when he comes back, he more often than not does the favors. Look what he did last year at the quasi-acid trip of a match that was with Bray Wyatt. He did the favors to Bray. So, again, there's no shame. It's just, it's how you add to the business by giving back. So that's where Jeff Hardy's at. And again, I think that's where he should be, and I have no problem with it. So thank you so much for your email. Let's keep these emails going here. Okay, this is from Kevin. Kevin says, I do see a lot of comments about Becky returning. I'm with you. SummerSlam time. However, does anyone actually know if she has had a natural birth or is a C-section? That could put her back even further. Also, you don't know if she's even wants to return full time. Love your show, Matt. It's really good, especially your co-hosts. Regarding fans coming back, I'm from England, so please excuse me if what I'm about to suggest is ridiculous, but I do watch a lot of boxing and UFC, and have noticed fans have been at events in Texas for a while. Can't we do shows again there to get fans in? So last point first. I would hope fans come back. I don't care how it happens. Safely. I'm not saying let's all demask and cough in each other's faces and breathe in deeply, or make out with your neighbor. Okay, that's not what I'm suggesting. But I do think, yes, safely, if there's ways to do it. If you watch a lot of boxing and UFC and fans are there, Texas, Florida just held the Super Bowl and had 25,000 fans in Raymond James Stadium. WWE was taking notes that night. You can guarantee yourself that, of how to successfully do it. What worked, what didn't. I'm all for it too. I think all of us want fans back on all sporting event platforms, not just wrestling. Wrestling, although, I think is suffering the most, considering they are what really make wrestling tick. Because everything's for that reaction versus actual true competition between opponents in traditional sports, baseball, football, that kind of thing, boxing, UFC. So, okay, but on to your wrestling stuff. Becky, yeah, I've seen a lot of comments too. I don't know if she had a cesarean section, a C-section, or if it was a natural birth. I really don't know the answer to that. I have no idea. If anybody knows, let me know. But again, I don't expect to know though either, because that's extremely personal information that I and fans really have no business knowing if she doesn't want to share it. However, to your point though, that certainly would set her back, but only by about a month or so, unless there were complications, of which I don't think there were, that I know of. And how I know that? My wife had a C-section. I've known many people that have had C-sections, and it takes about a month, maybe 2, to fully recover from it. It is major surgery. People forget how major it is. You're slicing your abdomen open, moving organs around to get a baby out, and then stitching yourself back up. There's a lot that goes into a cesarean section that people just, it's very common. It is. It's common major surgery, though. So that's a good point. I honestly don't know, though, Kevin. I don't know. But you're right. It would certainly set her back. However, part 2 to that is, what about her desire? Does she even want to, or is she content being a full-time mom? Time will tell. I think that the desire to be in the ring with that reaction from fans, although that part of it obviously doesn't exist right now, is forever in a WWE star and will forever live there. Even no matter what happens in your life, sometimes people find their way back to WWE all the time. When you think they're never coming back, oh, that person's fired, oh, they've had really bad relations with Vince, oh, they're doing this or that. They always find their way back more often than not. Very few exceptions. Very few exceptions. I could name Macho Man, never really came back. Although, we know what happened there. There's been examples of people that have not found their way back to WWE. But yeah, the desire is a big thing, and I don't know. I think SummerSlam is still what I'm looking for. I'm still on that. So, alrighty. Thank you, Kevin, for your email. Always good to hear from you. Please, email us again. Okay, let's see here. What's the next email? Oh, Danny from Newcastle. Danny Cool. He says, "Hi Matt, it's Danny from Newcastle again. Do you think Cena would be a part or full-time champion if he beat Drew at Mania? And do you think he will do open challenges again if he was full-time? Do you think Omos, there, I know I settled on something, so I'm going to stick with Omos. Do you think Omos would be inside the chamber or out in the Drew chamber match? Also, boy, you guys are peppering me with all these questions. I'm loving it. It's just a lot. Also, do you think they should do more unscripted promos in the PG era, or do you think they're doing fine at the minute with both? Thank you for continuing the weekly podcast, and I'll see you in the next one, Danny from Newcastle." Okay, Danny. So let me take a drink here. I'll say this. If my theory, that is a long shot at best, where John Cena comes back to face Drew McIntyre at WrestleMania actually comes to fruition, and he challenges Drew McIntyre for the championship, and he wins, boy, a lot of ifs. A lot of ifs. I wouldn't put your money on this one. But if he does, do I think he'll do open challenges again? No, I don't. I don't think there's a need for it. I think there was a need when he was United States champion to add value to the belt, bring a spotlight to the belt. That was what it needed. The WWE Championship does not need that. It speaks for itself. The lineage of the WWE Championship is long and highly respected. So no, I don't think he'll do open challenges. And I also don't think he'd work full time. Again, guys, this is also considering that John Cena challenges Drew and also wins at WrestleMania. So big, big ifs. So we're playing things out here, but I appreciate the questions. Do I think Amos will be inside the chamber? No, I don't. I do not think that he will be inside the chamber. He is in a nice role of being the assistant when AJ needs it. I think in some way he will possibly enter or at least interfere through the chain link of the Elimination Chamber. He will somehow aid AJ Styles. I wish it was to aid him in an actual championship win. We know that's not going to happen right now, I don't think. Unless they convince me otherwise. I just don't see AJ Styles right now regaining the WWE Championship. But I think Omos will actually be involved, just not in the chamber. I think he's very limited in terms of in-ring. He's good at imposing and being a scary figure there, an imposing figure for AJ to run his mouth and have a backup. I just don't think inside the chamber is where he'll be. Unscripted promos, I mean, I've said that for a long, long time now, but unscripted promos, are they doing fine with both? I think a sprinkling of both is always a good mix. What I would do if I were Vince McMahon and I had full control over whether or not we do scripted, unscripted, or a mix, I would survey the guys and gals and say, hey, here's what I think. I would say to them, if you're comfortable in exploring your own character and being more of yourself on camera, go for it. I'll give you bullet points to make sure you hit these things so the story can progress where we want it to, but fill it in with your personality and your words. If you're not comfortable with that, then okay, we can continue doing scripted promos, because not everybody's going to be good at unscripted. There will be some uncomfortable and secondhand embarrassing moments if you just tell everybody, sorry, no more scripted promos. So you got to kind of meet them where they're at. You got to meet the stars, the wrestlers, where they're at in terms of wanting to expand and grow their character. Those that decide to stick with the status quo and want to be scripted 100% and memorize their lines and try to deliver them in a way that doesn't sound like they're reading, then fine. Those will be more than likely, those will be the people that stay stagnant in their growth. But when you go out on a limb, man, and you put yourself out there, it's a big risk, but it's a big reward. So do I think they're doing fine with both? I don't know if they're doing both. I think more often than not, it's scripting, and it's select people that don't have to worry about a script. I think Kevin Owens is one of them. I think Edge is one of them that kind of get a pass for super meticulous micromanagement of following the script. There's not a lot of people. Probably Randy Orton is another. Drew McIntyre is a mix. So again, I'd say 90% of the people that are doing promos right now that you see on Raw and SmackDown are scripted. But outside of like the top guys. So, okay. Danny Cool from Newcastle. Thank you so much. Looking forward to your email next week. Okay. We're rocketing through the emails, guys. Not too many more. All right. This one comes from Christopher M. He says, do you think that splitting up the Undisputed Era was a good idea? Or do you think that they should have waited until they got brought up to the main roster? What they could have done is have them feud with Retribution, and their final encounter have a match where the losing team has to disband, having Undisputed Era lose, and when they're standing in the ring together, have Adam Cole super kick everybody and have him walk away, setting up for a single push for him. Let me know your thoughts. So here's what I'll say, and I'm going to be 100% transparent with you. I do not religiously watch NXT. I don't. And you may be saying, you're the WWE podcast. How the hell are you? I will say this 100 times until I'm blue in the face. It's not that I don't want to. I just literally do not have the time in my day to watch NXT, which is why I have delegated the NXT review to Zach Smith, who does an excellent job of reviewing that show. That doesn't mean I don't know who Undisputed Era are, and doesn't mean I don't know who Adam Cole is. So, let's play this out. Again, this is coming from a slightly uneducated NXT watcher. So take that for what it's worth. Or berate me if you wish. Take your pick. Here's one thing I will say. I do like Undisputed Era from what I've seen. Adam Cole, no question, he's the star of the group. Do I want them to feud with Retribution? I don't want anyone to feud with Retribution. I know enough about Retribution to know that I don't want to see them ever again. Never. I have no interest in seeing them feud with anybody. I understand they need someone to work with, but the answer is no. Unless they do some massive overhaul of this group. I have less than zero interest in seeing Retribution in any capacity on my screen. So that remains to be seen. Well, who do they work with? Hurt Business is one. Hurt Business is a very solid group. Quote, heel group in WWE. So you can have them work there. As far as Adam Cole super kicking everybody, I will say this. I said Adam Cole's the star of the group. I don't think that's a really critical thinking comment. I mean, it's pretty obvious. But having him lay everybody out, I'd be careful of that because I think that would somewhat bury everybody else in Undisputed Era. You got to be careful doing that. Because you really got to believe in Adam Cole to establish that he is a step above everybody else in that group. You got to be careful. But, I don't get a whole lot of NXT questions. So how about you forward that, or maybe I'll forward this to Zach to answer on his show tomorrow. Alrighty, Chris. Thank you for your email and exposing my lack of knowledge and embarrassing me live on my show. Of course, I'm joking. Everybody knows that. I don't really watch NXT because I wish I could. For real. Okay. All right, Joe. Let's see what Joe has to say. A couple more emails, guys, and we're going to hear your voices and stop hearing mine. So you say, hey, Matt, Joe again here from the UK. My thoughts today are regarding the Raw Women's title basically going into obscurity yet again at the hands of Asuka, or in the hands of Asuka. It seems like WWE only ever wants to put full attention on one of the women's titles, sort of similar to the road to WrestleMania 35, where the SmackDown belt got basically forgotten about until Charlotte took it back, just to add her to the main event. Yes, I agree that should have never happened, and you're on my trigger warning list now. That is one of those topics that makes me lose my mind. Okay, but you continue here, and you say my suggestion would be to turn one of the women's belts into a mid-card or workhorse belt, as this could give the female wrestlers, you have wrestlers all capped, I agree, lower in the ranks, such as Dana Brooke, Tamina, Peyton Royce, etc., a chance to work with a prop to elevate them to a more main event level, while also freeing up the already considered main event women to the pack out of the top title picture. This way, both championships would be relevant and give more women on the roster a chance to hold some gold and create more diverse storylines. Not sure how they would work it over the two shows, as would maybe have to split main event and mid-carders onto separate shows. What do you think? Hope this makes sense. Keep up the good show, Joe. Joe. So, again, I'm going to ignore your comment about Charlotte and being plugged into the main event and really just liquefying the SmackDown Women's Championship at WrestleMania 35 2 years ago. Not because I'm dismissing your comment and think it doesn't mean anything or doesn't matter, just because I do not want to rant on this again. I could. It is a sore spot with me. Really sore spot. And maybe they'll bring that up. Maybe they'll bring this up when Asuka and Charlotte go one-on-one at WrestleMania and where Charlotte turns heel, hopefully. Because that's something they could pull from. They'd be smart to do so or stupid to not do so. It's low-hanging fruit that they can just pull off the tree and use as one of the catalysts for WrestleMania. Maybe Asuka turns heel. I wouldn't want to see it, but maybe they do. I don't know. Okay, so beyond that comment, your suggestion about the WWE taking one of the women's championships and essentially demoting it to a mid-card type of championship, I agree with you on this level, that it would allow different women that may not get an opportunity at the top belt on their respective brand to hold gold. Totally agree. Absolutely agree. The problem I have with that is WWE already has that in the women's championship, the tag team championship. They already have that, a floating championship that can go between either brand, which I like, and they have that championship as the kind of mid-card belt that really two women can hold since it's a tag team championship. So they kind of already have it. But I know what you mean. Kind of maybe a Intercontinental / United States version for the women. Right? And I see what you're doing. And I have no problem with that on paper as a concept. But when you put it in application, again, you have the women's tag team championships, and then you have a top belt. You wouldn't have a second top belt because your idea is to take that and essentially demote it to a level of WWE Intercontinental or United States Championship type of status in WWE. I understand that. But the other problem is I don't think the women's roster is deep enough to add another championship. I understand you're taking one away, but you're also introducing a new championship. Even though you're taking one out, you're introducing a different type of championship for the women, which essentially feels like you're still adding one, even though you're making a change to one of them. It also, I think, would, kind of take all the value out of whatever championship you choose with all the goodwill that they built up with it on either brand. With Bayley in the SmackDown Women's Championship, 390 days, whatever it was, as champion. And, Ronda Rousey held the Raw Women's Championship. Asuka, one of the best women's wrestlers in the world, holding the current Raw Women's Championship. No fault of her own that they haven't focused on it. I'm not blaming Asuka in all this. She's just been kind of hidden right now for Charlotte to just eventually hopefully turn on and not try to swerve us the other way. But I agree with you on paper. I just don't think, again, to recap, the women's roster is deep enough to do that. You'd also, again, be sacrificing all the goodwill and respect and prestige and value that you put in whatever championship you're going to demote. And the fact that you already kind of have that in the women's tag team championship. But I appreciate your question, Owen. I've never had anyone say that. Good stuff. Thank you so much, Joe. I called you Owen. Joe. All right. Let's move on to the next email. Let's see how many more I have, just so you guys know. A few more. But, okay, how about this? Because I don't want to keep dictating the emails. I'll do one more email, and then I'm going to get to at least a couple of voicemails, and then get back to emails and kind of break things up. So here's our next email, and then we'll take a break and hear you guys. You say, "Hi, Matt. Meeks here from the Philippines." Man, it's so crazy I'm all the way over there. "I would like to thank you for the Mailbag episode number 15. I lost hope that time, thinking that my email would not be chosen for your review, but you got me out of my seat when I heard you picked my email. I even called my wife, and she's shocked." That's pretty cool. Well, congratulations, you got chosen again. So you're 2 for 2. Anyway, I hope you're doing well. My thoughts for today are, number 1, why is she still not considered as one of the possible contenders for the SmackDown Women's Championship? She's a great athlete. She has swag, the looks, and can back it up with great in-ring performance. I remembered when watching the recent Women's Royal Rumble, and I feel like she could have at least eliminated 4 to 5 participants. Still, I believe she's a champion one day. And your second point, Rhea Ripley is one of the best athletes in WWE. So where do you think Rhea Ripley should be drafted, Raw or SmackDown? What are your thoughts? Thanks. Keep safe. More listeners and supporters to come. Well, Miko, thank you for the support. I'm glad that I made your day. And hope all is well and safe with you and your wife as we go through this just really insane time in our lives. Hopefully we never have to deal with something like this again. I'm talking about the pandemic, of course. Alrighty. Point number 1, Ruby Riott. I think most fans would agree with you here that Ruby Riott and Liv Morgan, to that end, both are deserving of an elevation. And perhaps that elevation in WWE's eyes is the Women's Tag Team Championship, which they've done a nice job of at least not hiding for a few months and then reminding fans, oh yeah, the women have a tag team championship, which is what it felt like for many, many months. And they've done a nice job of bringing it to the forefront as of late. But I think when you talk about singles championships for Ruby Riott, I don't think there's any question that she will be champion one day. I'm talking about SmackDown or Raw if she's somehow drafted to Raw. But if she stays on SmackDown, yes, I think she is going to be eventually the SmackDown Women's Champion. I will kind of disappoint you, or I guess bring your expectations down a little bit by saying that I don't see any groundwork for it. She's certainly gotten her share of wins over the last several months, but also her share of losses. She's not on a Cesaro trajectory. And what I mean by that is you don't see a massive foundation being laid for her and all this momentum, as they like to say, where it builds to a crescendo, it builds to a moment coming where you see it and the fans are getting behind her. You don't see that right now. And to her really disadvantage, the fans aren't there in person to tell WWE, hey, get behind her. You really do wonder over the last 11 months, almost a year now, how different the product would be if fans were there. You do wonder. That's a whole nother show, a whole nother discussion. But when you're looking at this little part, perhaps Ruby Riott would be in a different position if the fans were there. Because I think the fans would give her a lot of support. As far as when she'll be champion, I don't know. Maybe by the end of 2021, perhaps they pull the trigger. I don't think that she is going to become champion before WrestleMania or after WrestleMania. Because when you have champions win or retain at WrestleMania, typically you want that championship win or retention to mean something and hold for a few months. So that would mean you're already into the summer, and Ruby Riott will probably not win it until, if they're going to do it, maybe fall of 2021. I don't mean to be down. I'm with you. I just don't see it right now. Rhea Ripley, your last point here. Yes, she's one of the best athletes in WWE, bar none. Sure, her look is unique. She's jacked. And I mean that in a complimentary way to her. The ending that she had with Bianca Belair was probably one of the best endings to a Royal Rumble match I've seen in a long time. Men or women's. With the drama, the back and forth. It far exceeded the men's finish to the Royal Rumble. And it was probably one of the best, most enjoyable parts of the entire pay-per-view. And Rhea Ripley is half of the equation there, and she is certainly given credit where it's due. I think that Rhea Ripley, when she comes up, it's hard to say where she should be drafted. Assuming she's a babyface, perhaps she goes to SmackDown. Because I think SmackDown is in desperate need of a lead babyface. And you can tell me Sasha Banks, okay? You go, but Sasha Banks is no, she's not. Sasha Banks is not a lovable, easy to relate to babyface. She's just not. And I know that I have listeners that I'm going to hear from today that love her and she can do no wrong, and that's fine. There are people out there. I just think she's miscast. She belongs a heel. Problem is, they're short on baby faces, and I think that Rhea Ripley would fit in very nicely there as a babyface to challenge for the SmackDown Women's Championship. So, alrighty. Thank you again. Crazy that you're all the way from the Philippines. So, please, email back. Maybe I'll make you come out of your seat next week, too. All right, guys. So that is a pause right now. We're going to pause on the emails as we have, just so you know, let me count them, how many emails we have left. 1, 2. We only have 2 emails left, but I do want to take a break. My voice wants to take a break. So let's hear from you, and then we'll get back to voicemail. So let's start with the very first one.
Hey Matt, this is Jep from the Philippines. It's been a while since the last time I sent a voicemail in here. So I think I'm in the minority of who wants to see Edge challenge for the NXT Championship. I know that's unlikely to happen, but I think if Edge challenge for that championship. He could elevate the NXT brand since the ratings are getting lower each week. And what do you think about the Elimination Chamber pay-per-view? Because this is one of my favorite pay-per-views. I know you're not a big fan of this stipulation-based pay-per-views, but I think Elimination Chamber sets as an obstacle before to the wrestlers before we can go to WrestleMania. And what do you think about The Fiend returning at WrestleMania? Because every time WWE shows that video where they show the number of days before we can get to WrestleMania, there's a part of that video where you can hear Bray Wyatt laughing. So they might be teasing his return at that day. I don't know at which WrestleMania night, because we all know it's set for 2 nights. So that's all, Matt. Stay safe. Bye.
Jeff, yeah, it's been a while. Thank you for calling in. And again, it's just, we have 2 listeners in the Philippines reaching out. That's pretty damn cool. So, Jeff, first of all, thank you. Hope everything's going well with you. Edge challenging for the NXT Championship is something that most people are putting out of their minds simply for the fact that it's not that they don't want to see it. They just don't believe WWE will do it. So it's not a matter of, do fans want to see it? Because Edge versus Finn Balor would be awesome. It'd be awesome. And, as you said, the other side effect of this is the NXT Championship and NXT itself, the brand, would be elevated because Edge has chosen NXT and the championship to challenge. While we all agree with that, you know the one person that doesn't, and the one person's opinion that matters more than any of ours that doesn't agree with that is Vince McMahon. Vince McMahon, while he doesn't, I don't think he hates NXT, we just know that it's very rarely a priority for him, and that his babies are Raw and SmackDown. So would he take Edge, one of the biggest stars in wrestling, especially his return, and make it a championship opportunity for Edge in NXT? No. I don't think that'll happen, because then what? What if Edge wins? He's going to go to NXT every week? No, I don't think he will. So I don't think he will do that, because it's not, like you said, you're in the minority. I think you're actually in the majority. I think that most people just don't say NXT because they don't even consider it as an actual viable option, because we all know Vince doesn't. So since Vince doesn't, we put it out of our minds and we only look at Raw or SmackDown. So no, I don't think we will see that because Vince doesn't want to see it. As far as your question about the Elimination Chamber, as a general rule of thumb, I am not a proponent of stipulation-based pay-per-views that are just built into the schedule of WWE. That being said, I would say Elimination Chamber is the exception to that, because it is such a unique match. It's a great structure, even though they've made it, as Anthony DeMarco has infamously put it, they baby-proofed it, one of our great co-hosts here on the network, but I'll steal that from him. They have baby-proofed the Elimination Chamber. They have. But, and when I say that, I mean they've, instead of the metal grate on the outside of the ring, they've padded it. They've done things to improve the safety of the performers, and I am 100% on board for that, but they have baby-proofed it. That being said, again, I'm not a big fan of gimmick pay-per-views, but I'm not a fan of gimmicks that should feel more special than they do, that should only be used for blow-offs. The biggest culprit, Hell in a Cell. Hell in a Cell to me is the absolute biggest offender in that lineup of WWE pay-per-views that should not exist on a regular. I'll be able to talk today, guys. It's just getting late. On a regular schedule, pay-per-view rotation, it should not be there just to be there. And whatever programs are going on just deserve the sell. No. It's the opposite. But WWE doesn't care, and they think that gimmicks sell pay-per-views or sell network subscriptions. And so that's again, something that we will have to just deal with. So Elimination Chamber, I enjoy the format. I do, because it's not a blow-off. It's a brutal event. It's fun because you never know who's coming out next. Things change throughout the match. I'm fine with it. This is the one exception, I would say. Really. So your final point about Bray Wyatt returning at WrestleMania. I guess, here's what I'll say. I don't think that Bray Wyatt will return at WrestleMania. I think he will be in a match at WrestleMania. Maybe we don't see him until WrestleMania, but I don't think he's going to, when you say return, interfere in a match at WrestleMania. That would, I think, be a waste of the Fiend to just appear and then build to the next pay-per-view when you've already passed WrestleMania. So I think when you say appear, I think you mean he'll actually physically be there, and I would 100% agree. But maybe WWE decides to keep him out of the eyes of fans for another 2 months and wait until WrestleMania to actually physically see him. So while he'll challenge Randy Orton to God knows what match, I mean, you can't go to a standard wrestling match after what they did to each other in the Inferno match. I'd love to see how this whole thing plays out. And it has the potential to be completely disastrous, embarrassing, and completely unbelievable, of which I would give it a high chance. But perhaps they set up the match, but you don't see him until WrestleMania. That I'm fine with. Like they did with Undertaker and Kane. Kane and Undertaker were booked for a match at WrestleMania 20, but you didn't see The Undertaker until WrestleMania 20. And maybe that's the hook. I think that's a good hook. I think it's a really good hook to have The Fiend not actually physically show up until at WrestleMania, but you have to make him look different. You can't have him just be the standard Fiend that he's been. Things need to change, especially being burned alive. All right. Thank you so much, Jeff. As always, hope things are going well with you too. Okay, so let's get back to and finish up. Let's finish up these emails, and then we'll get to all the other voicemails. We still got a whole bunch of voicemails. This could be a bit of a longer show. Okay, this is from Gio, a.k.a. the G-Man. Also, the Mr. 610 guy from last week. You say, I apologize if you couldn't hear me. Oh, that's right. Yes. Thank you. I'm glad you clarified. But figure I try to do email this time. Yes, I see your email, so this is working. You say, so I'm in Reading, Pennsylvania. I've been listening for almost 2 years. Normally when I go to work or go home, I always listen to your show, my friend. I've been watching WWE since I was 9, back in 1999, so there you go. Alrighty, now you're 5 years younger than me. As of now, Raw is an up and down show. NXT is doing good each week, and SmackDown has been so good since Roman had turned heel. I love watching SmackDown so much because I'm so interested in what Roman's going to do next, and he needs to keep that Universal title for the rest of the year because he's doing very great things on that show. One last thing, I'm a huge Sasha Banks fan since back in NXT. I'm just so happy she has the Women's Championship on SmackDown. I love Bianca and hoping she'll face Sasha for the title at WrestleMania. I really want Sasha to keep the championship till SummerSlam or maybe Survivor Series. I'm just happy she's finally getting the long reign she so deserves. I believe Kyle from New York has a crush on her. Absolutely do too. So let's make this interesting. Okay, we have a challenge here, guys. He says, I challenge you, Kyle, one-on-one at WrestleMania. Winner of the match goes on a date with Sasha Banks at a future time of the day, whenever that will be. Book it. Anyway, Matt, I'm sorry to make this pretty long, but I just want to make it on the show. To all the listeners, co-hosts, to you and Matt, thank you so much. Take care, all. Well, thank you, Gio, a.k.a. the G-Man, or Mr. 610. A lot of aliases. Hope everything's well with you, too, and I'm glad that you were able to, in lieu of your voicemail, email us. So a lot of stuff there. I mean, you didn't ask a question, which is fine. You don't always have to ask a question. You can just certainly give me your opinion without a question in there. But we have a challenge. The problem is, does Sasha Banks agree to this? Maybe you guys can have a contract signing on SmackDown, and she'll agree to it there. So, alrighty, brother. Thank you for your email. And one more email, and that'll wrap up the email portion. Alrighty. And it's a doozy. All right, Paul. He says, I hope this finds you well. Thanks for all your hard work in your podcast. I listened to a few wrestling podcasts who knew there were so many and find yours not to be only entertaining but insightful. Well, thank you. Yeah, there are so many. And we all know the massive ones. I mean, let's be honest. We all know the big ones. They're big for a reason, and we'll eventually catch them. It's just going to take time, like, Observer, The Torch, Busted Open Radio, Jim Ross's show, Stone Cold show. Those are going to be, I mean, lofty goals, but it's not impossible. I believe we can get there over time. Alrighty, so you have a few thoughts. Miz TV. I don't mind the Miz. He shows up at the opening of a door, and he is a strong mid-card performer and a great heel. If I was Miz, I would ask Raw writers to cancel Miz TV, since in every segment his meager set gets trashed, and he gets slapped around and kicked from his own show. The shock would be to go through a whole segment without the interview being interrupted or Miz not being made a fool of. I could see the Miz, when he retires from active wrestling, adjust to the announce table. He can be funny, and if he's allowed to be brutally honest, can be a breath of fresh air. He would have to tone it down, but I could see the transition well into this position. Okay, so that's point number one. I actually praised, for the first time in, I feel like, years, I praised The Miz this past week, last night on my show, that he did a good promo. He's shown that he can actually cut a promo without being a goofball that acts like he's a sophomore in high school with Morrison. Agreed that he can be, I wouldn't say great heel. Maybe I would change that adjective to good. But I would agree that there is talent there. And translating his skills to a manager and or announcing position would be seamless for him. I've always been of the belief that The Miz is a manager in a wrestler's role. And I really don't mean to be disrespectful about this, because this is his life bread. I mean, this is how he makes a living. I get that. As much as I despise his character on TV, I understand that. I'm not trying to disrespect his work. But there are certain people that just feel like managers when they're playing wrestler. And Miz is one of them. I think he would be a really good manager for somebody. And a good announcer. So, agreed. Raw, you said this Raw was okay. I like the gauntlet match as it played to all the 6 wrestlers' strengths. The Miz trying to get his partner Morrison a free pass to Elimination Chamber was clever, and in some sort of weird way, a kind act to his partner. But to me, the Miz's logic is off. He has the Money in the Bank contract, so that means he can cash it in at any time. Now they basically give him a chance to win it without the cash in logic, without the cash in at the chamber match. Not that he would win. He has slim to no chance of, and Slim is out of town, but logically, and there has to be some internal logic on wrestling stories. Yeah, you would think so. He's giving up a great opportunity. He got a free pass and decided to give it to his partner. It wasn't like he was going to get a one-on-one match with Drew, so he might as well take this when it arrives on his plate. Now, I actually went over this too on my Raw review. I think it's actually a smart move. I understand what you're saying. It's like house money, that you could get a free opportunity and still hold the Money in the Bank briefcase. But Miz, as a heel, knows that in all likelihood he's not going to win that match. Very high likelihood he's not going to win that match. He could get hurt, and that he's probably going to get pinned 1, 2, 3 and lose the match. To which you would say, well, so what? He still has the briefcase and at least took a shot. But if his plan is to utilize and maximize that opportunity of the briefcase, wouldn't he want to be 100% and not put himself in a potentially injury position, in a position to potentially be injured or not be at 100% when he takes advantage of whoever wins that chamber match? That's why I think he has a very high chance of cashing in this Sunday night at Elimination Chamber. So that's my logic as to why. And I understand yours, but when I'm thinking of a heel, what would advantage them the most? And being 100% after everyone's beating the holy hell out of each other, I think would give him the greatest advantage if he cashes in. Okay, you have a few more points here. Raw again. Styles look great as usual. AJ could fight a garbage can and make that the can look good. Kofi looked great, but trying to recreate Kofi Mania is impossible. I agree wholeheartedly with you. The last time it was organic, and you can't just snap your fingers and have the fans buy into it so easily. Even Kofi looked a little bit off in the promo before the gauntlet match. Randy Orton getting so spooked by Alexa is fun, but for someone who's so cool and collected, be freaked out by a 5-foot possessed woman on the screens and getting counted out seems a bit silly. Drew didn't seem phased. Sheamus was great. When the announcer said it was 6 years since he held the world title, that surprised me, as I didn't think it was that long. I know he got hurt for a while and came back. They're giving Sheamus something to work with right now, which is good, and he's taking advantage of it very well. I wouldn't mind a Sheamus and Drew match at Fastlane or even Mania. Edge will fight Roman, but it isn't so obvious who will be Drew's opponent. Sheamus will be good as the story is ripe with the possibilities and doesn't need any build-up. Whew, that was a mouthful. And I mean that as a compliment. You come up with some great points here. Agreed about the Kofi Mania thing. I mean, you're agreeing with what I said, so I guess I'm agreeing with myself by default. But to kind of expand on that, Kofi Mania, this is a reoccurring issue with WWE, that they just try to recreate something that happened organically, which means it's not going to happen. You can't recreate an organic storyline, because then by definition it's no longer organic. It's a produced storyline. It's not something that happened out of just a grassroots movement, so to speak. Agreed. So, Randy Orton getting spooked by Alexa. I didn't really mention Alexa that much, other than, she caused Randy to get counted out, which, again, you can't have Randy or Drew lose clean based on their in separate storylines right now, and you want to keep them both as strong as possible. So it made sense he got counted out. Yes, it would make sense that he shouldn't be scared of her, but it's not really her that he's scared of. He knows that the Fiend is on his way back. So she is an extension of the Fiend. So he's really on the lookout for the Fiend by using Alexa as an extension of him. So that's really what it is. And Alexa sitting in the pentagram, whew. I mean, guys, look, I don't get into spiritual stuff a lot. Certainly religion and politics are like two things you don't talk about with listeners or with people at work. There's always those rules, right? But I will say this, a pentagram, even though it's in storyline, it's borderline not PG. When you really research what a pentagram is and what it represents, you're diving into some dark stuff. Like, I wouldn't go there type stuff. But WWE feels it's okay and appropriate. I would just say it probably isn't PG, if you're asking me. Not that it's blood, gore, sex, or anything else like that, but just based on certain spiritual things that I've read about that. But anyway, okay, I'm getting a little bit deep and unnecessarily, but I agree about Randy Orton getting spooked by Alexa. Okay. Whew. Sheamus and Drew at Fastlane. Yes, I would get rid of that match at Fastlane and then see who his opponent is at WrestleMania. Could they drag it to WrestleMania? Yes. They could drag Sheamus and Drew to WrestleMania. I would think that is probably not what they're going to do, and they have a bigger opponent in mind, which is, again, my concocted belief is John Cena with an outside chance of Brock Lesnar. How about that? Okay. Whew. Alrighty. You certainly took time to write this email, Paul. I got to say, you wrote this out very, very nicely. 24/7 championship. I know you don't like this championship, but maybe there's another perspective. Growing up in northern Canada, I watched wrestling from 4 to 6 on WTBS every Saturday with my best friend. This was the time of Harley Race, Tommy Rich, Buzz Sawyer, Gordon Soley as the announcer, and guess what? We did those moves that we saw in our basements. This was before WWE's don't do these moves at home. Anyway, almost every match was a legit wrestler against a jobber. Hardly ever did we get two legit stars fighting against one another. Every match was predictable, and the only time two stars fought was in a promo or a match that was interrupted. The 24/7 championship is the ultimate jobber's championship. It's like the Iron Mike Sharp actually winning a match when I was a kid. If this jobber's belt was around when I was watching as a kid, we would have loved it. And I guess this is what wrestling does to you, makes you remember your childhood at times. So Why I totally understand why you don't like the championship. Even jobbers need fans. To your point about jobbers needing fans and needing time and airtime, that is certainly a benefit that maybe I and those that trash the championship don't consider. Is that it does give guys that otherwise would not have a role on the show, or maybe even a paycheck, seriously, time to shine. And I am 100% on board for keeping the championship around, as silly as it is, if it really does mean guys getting paychecks and airtime for what they love to do in the craft that they've sacrificed their life to be in. So to that end, 100% on board for just suffering through some of the silliness. I guess that aside, which is super important, and I'm glad you brought that up, is the way that every championship change has to happen. Again, not every time, but a large majority of the time, an overwhelming majority of the time, it has to end with a roll-up. The simplest of moves. And I know why. It's because it's done on all different surfaces. You can't do, you can't do a power bomb on a concrete surface. I understand that because it happens backstage, on the ground, outside. I get it. It's just, it's become a little bit cringeworthy when you have the same 5 guys single file chasing R-Truth around the building. I understand, but it's hard to watch. But if it gives guys a paycheck, we'll all suffer through it. Okay, your final point. Predictions. Showdown chamber match. Winner, Cesaro over KO at the end. Roman defeats Cesaro with the help of Jay. I think you and I are in the same line of thinking, my friend. Raw chamber match. I said Showdown, and I should have said SmackDown. You have Showdown. I know what you meant. I should have said SmackDown and saw that correction. The Raw chamber match, you have Drew over Sheamus at the end, though I wouldn't mind seeing Sheamus winning here and then have Drew chase him to Mania to regain the championship. Roman is booked not to lose, and I think Drew losing to Randy in 2020 and now at the Chamber adds to Drew's story of his redemption from getting kicked out of the WWE years ago. Asuka and Sasha retain, Rude and Ziggler over the Street Profits, and Lashley and Big E win. Whew. Lot of stuff, man. Well, we'll see. You guys will hear my full prediction show Saturday night right here on the WWE podcast as we go through every match in depth as I bring on a co-host to go through all of that. So, Paul, thank you for all the time and effort into that email. Whew. That is a long email, my friend, but good thoughts, well thought out, well said. Please feel free to email us back. All right, everybody. My voice needs a break. I'm sure you need a break from hearing mine. Let's get to more of those voicemails right now.
Hey, Matt. It's Kyle from New York again. Just so you know, last week in the voicemail, you were like, I crushed your soul because I suggested Drew McIntyre versus Shane McMahon. Just I just want to make it clear. I didn't suggest it. Like, I just predicted it. Trust me. I don't want it either, just as much as you do. I mean, just as much as you don't. I don't want it either. I hope the match doesn't happen at all. Like, I agree with you. I agree with mostly everything you say on the show, actually. Like, pretty much every opinion you have on this show, I agree with. Except the one thing. I find Billy Kay and Peyton Royce very annoying. Sorry. I just don't like either of them. More Billy Kay. She knows me more. But that's about it. Everything else I pretty much agree with on this show. And about Sasha. Sorry. I like Sasha. Like, I like her character. But I agree with you, she's a great wrestler. Everything else I agree with. Anyway. Now I had a brain fart and I forgot my question. I have one. Oh yeah. This is what it was. So, by the time you get this voicemail, Raw probably already happened. And, if it did, who do you think won the Gauntlet match? If you don't know, this Monday on Raw, there's supposed to be a Gauntlet match with all 6 people that are in the Drew McIntyre Chamber match. Like, all 6 of them are having a Gauntlet match. And the winner is going to enter the Chamber last. So, who do you think is going to win it? But I don't know why I'm even asking this, because you're probably already going to have watched the Raw by the time you hear this. But my prediction is it's going to be probably Sheamus. I thought Drew McIntyre was going to survive till the end, and the final 2 are going to be him and Sheamus. Also, do you think this feud is actually going to be at like WrestleMania? Like, do you think Drew and Sheamus is like? Do you think Drew and Sheamus are gonna have a one-on-one title match at Fastlane or WrestleMania? Which one do you think is gonna happen at? That's my second question. And yeah, that's it. So talk to you next week. Thanks for everything you do on the show. Love the show. And yeah, that's it. So bye and happy Valentine's Day.
Hey Kyle. So I'm really glad also that you were just joking about Shane McMahon and Drew McIntyre. And no, I that would, I think fans would seriously, they would storm down WWE's door. If you love Sasha Banks, great. Again, I think she should just be a heel. I have no problem with her character. I just don't like her character being told to me that I'm supposed to like this character and relate to it. I find it just obnoxious, which is fine, but just tell me that she's a heel. Don't try to tell me she's a babyface and I'm supposed to relate with that obnoxious head shaking. You didn't say that. I'm the boss around here. Like, it's so obnoxious to me. Again, this is all why we watch wrestling. You agree with most of my stuff, but you don't agree with everything. And that's what the really beautiful part of wrestling is that we all have differing opinions and can debate and fantasy book, and that's fun. Billie Kay and Peyton Royce. I agree with Peyton. Peyton Royce is annoying, but in a way that's, in a way I think that's not as endearing as Billie Kay. Again, this is all very subjective too. I'm not going to be able to convince you to like Billie Kay. That debate is completely pointless. But Billie Kay, I think, may eventually wear down on you if she continues down this path. I just think she's a lovable loser in a way. I think she's kind of got that lovable loser type of vibe to her. And I know I'll probably get this answer or this question in subsequent voicemails, but I will say again, I think it ends at Fastlane. Drew and Sheamus should end at Fastlane. I'd have no interest in seeing them go to WrestleMania. I could eat my words, and if I do, that's wonderful. And I have no problem eating. I've eaten my words more times in the show than I can count. But I don't want to see Sheamus and Drew at WrestleMania. To me, that's not WrestleMania worthy on paper. On paper, I know they're great friends, and they probably believe that they're WrestleMania worthy because of the story that they had, the backstory, the friendship, all that they can pull from. But the casual fan's going to go, huh? Really? Sheamus doesn't get anybody really excited, I don't think. He's a good heel, certainly an asset on the roster. He's just not main event worthy at WrestleMania. I'm sorry. He's not. He's not going to get anybody super excited. Good to sometimes very good heel, but it ends at Fastlane if I was booking this. So, Kyle, thank you so much. Let's get to our next one.
Hey, Matt, it's Brad from Pennsylvania. About this. I want to go off. I'm going to keep it cool. I'm not going to go off, but I'm going to vent a little bit. I have no idea on SmackDown what was going on with Seth Rollins. Did I miss something? I mean, I don't watch the Hulu version. I watch the regular on cable version. I have AT&T TV or whatever it is. And I don't know if I missed something. Like, why did everyone come out to the ring for him? Like, they treated it like it was like a celebration, like Stone Cold Steve Austin was coming back or something, so everybody's out to the ring to welcome him. Or like when Roman came back from cancer, like, why was Seth out there? Everybody hates Seth Rollins. He's a heel. Last time he was here, he was the Messiah. Everyone hates him. Even Buddy Murphy was out standing on the side of the ring. We haven't seen Buddy in months, but he's out to see Seth Rollins. Sasha Banks is out to see him with the belt. And then the thing that bothered me about it was he did his little speech, whatever, fine. The first people to walk away from what I saw were heels. It looked like Ziggler and Rude were the first to walk away. Like, they're heels, aren't they? He's a heel. Why didn't anyone listen to his story? I mean, he wants to do bad things. These are bad guys. Like, shouldn't you go do bad things together, all the bad guys? And then Cesaro, like, why did he stay out there? Why didn't you leave with everyone else? If you weren't with it, why didn't you leave when everyone else left? You stayed out there. I thought, oh, cool. Like, Cesaro isn't going to be a face. He's going to do something with Seth. And no, it's just Seth attacked him. And very lackluster for Seth. The whole thing. And I don't get why everyone had to come out. I don't get why the heels left. Like, the heels should have stayed. Cool. Yeah, you're a bad guy. We support bad guys, right? No, I don't know. It's the way I felt. And then the Elimination Chamber is starting to confuse me a little bit. Say, like, I don't know if I missed portions of the show or last week, but I don't know when Cesaro and Daniel Bryan became like this tag team to qualify for the Elimination Chamber, which is a singles match. So why are tag teams qualifying for it? I don't know if I missed something. Maybe you could explain that to me a little better or give me your thoughts on it. But that's all I got for you this week. But I know I haven't called in a few weeks. I've been a little busy and everything going on, But that's all I got for you, bud. Take care, Matt. See ya.
Hey, Brad. Yeah, it's been a while. So, as always, good to hear from you. Now, I know that you said you're not going to rant, and then I could hear the rant building in your voice as the voicemail went on, so I kind of laughed at that. It's hard not to get angry about that segment with Seth Rollins. And not that it's not good for his career, or at least it seems like it's a true kind of start for him to do something. As he came over to SmackDown, we were all originally in the draft going, yay, finally, he's away from the Mysterios. And then he gets to SmackDown, and what is he doing? He's fighting the Mysterios, and we were all just shaking our heads and wanting to just cry ourselves to sleep. But now we have Seth Rollins, as you said, on this segment on SmackDown. You didn't miss anything, man. I was ranting about this on my weekend review on Sunday. I said, what the hell are they doing? This makes no sense. This is not a guy that deserves a whole lot of respect given the way he went out, attacking a man's family. None of this is worthy of the entire roster coming out, minus Roman Reigns, as expected and should have been, and paying respect to him to hear what he has to say. For what? Well, they could have sat in the back and done that. Did everybody just put their differences aside and go, man, he's back, we got to hear what he has to say, and we can't do it in the back, we got to be ringside? For what? Just to have the setup of Cesaro versus Seth, the way that Cesaro somehow lingered, which made no sense, considering he's a freshly turned babyface, that he would be the last one there. And if that was to set up Cesaro versus Seth, there's 100 other ways to do it other than the way they did that. And not only that, but the worst part about it was you had people out there listening to Seth. Because of what? You had Rey Mysterio and Dominic, and you had Buddy Murphy, all out there listening to Seth. For what effing reason? It was absolutely, it's just plain stupid that they would have this set up for Seth and have the people that he tortured for months out there suddenly paying him the respect that they think he deserves. It was flat out stupid. And how this got past quality control, whatever that means in WWE, if there is such a thing, is mind-boggling. So there. You didn't want to rant, but I did it for you, my friend. Ay. As far as your question goes about Daniel Bryan and Cesaro qualifying, and they had to, number one, Adam Pearce came out. I mean, he said he needed to fill spots and they needed to qualify. Because apparently, if you're on Raw, you don't need to qualify. You just have to be a former champion. On SmackDown, you got to earn things around here. So he's not exactly governing with the same mindset on both shows, but whatever. So at least he made them qualify, which is fine. And they're somewhat of a newly formed team, even though Cesaro beat him twice clean. I don't know. I guess there's a general respect and bond there, which is why they're together. It's better than him being with Otis and Chad Gable in the Alpha Academy. I'll say that. So there is that. But it was just a way to quickly get people to qualify, considering they only had a couple, or really one show to go, not including this week. Well, 2 shows total to get to Chamber. So they had to quickly put participants in, and the tag team winners were ways to quickly fill spots rather than having 4 separate qualifying matches. You have 2. So I get it. That's why they did it. Alrighty, let's keep things rolling.
Hey, this is the gardener, Michael Gross. I was just calling in. Instead of ranting, I just wanted to stress a point that I kind of see building towards the Elimination Chambers, the fact that I feel like WWE's well has gone dry. If you look at Drew McIntyre's Elimination Chamber match, you have AJ, you have Jeff Hardy, Randy Orton, Sheamus, and The Miz. The average age of a person here is about 38 years old, with one who's already said he's going to be retiring, and who knows how long Jeff Hardy has left on his body. This leads me to believe that whatever outcome we have is going to be pretty predictable and probably not going to have a good, strong build to WrestleMania. Then we have the Roman Reigns situation where he's going to be defending against whoever wins the Elimination Chamber. Now, the hot pick for people to try to build some momentum that would actually put viewership into it's going to be Cesaro. However, his stock has fallen so much over the last few years that nothing can be happening, nothing can be built. Once again, we've got a situation where you feel like there's no true main eventer besides Daniel Bryan and Kevin Owens, and Kevin Owens, after so many defeats, does not look strong enough to take on Roman Reigns. So, going into this, I want to see what you think could possibly happen, because we're going to have to fantasy book this. We got to figure out where Edge is going to go. It looks like it's going to be a Roman Reigns versus Edge. We're going to take Finn Balor out of the equation for WrestleMania, because they usually defend that title on a takeover. However, I don't see a takeover advertised for that particular weekend. And with Drew, the only thing I see is the Sheamus or Miz, and those are two people who, one, have held world titles, two, have been both transitional champions and do nothing for the ratings, and three, we're going to the well with too many older stars on one show, and on the other being SmackDown, we're going with too many people who haven't been built up or do not carry on their shoulders the idea of momentum to be a main eventer. So I would like opinions of everybody out there, especially you, Matt, on what you would think fantasy booking wise, with only Fastlane as the buffer going into WrestleMania to set up marquee matches for a company that no longer has live spectators in its arenas. Thank you very much. Goodbye.
Well, Mr. Gardner, good to hear from you, and we'll get you on the show as a co-host very, very soon. I want to pick your brain on some things too. So without kind of tipping my hand on my predictions, because then I'd bury the lead and nobody would tune into my review show or preview show this Saturday. As it stands right now, and again, this could change because I haven't seen SmackDown, because I don't have a crystal ball, nor am I clairvoyant and can see into the future. I would say that for the Raw side, for the Raw chamber, Drew McIntyre, I think, retains. I mean, right now, I think he retains the championship going into WrestleMania. I think he'll go all the way to WrestleMania with the championship, and they end the thing at Fastlane. So I know that I've said that many times now over this show, but this question continues to come up, and rightfully so. That's what I think happens. It's going to be either Brock or John Cena versus Drew McIntyre at WrestleMania. I think they'll go back to the well, as you said, and they'll pull out the hat of Brock Lesnar or John Cena at WrestleMania. Brock Lesnar seems more realistic given that they just had a match last year, and Brock would be out for revenge, and that would be, I think, be interesting as hell. The only problem would be he doesn't have a mouthpiece unless Paul Heyman does double duty, managing Drew and managing Roman. Maybe that happens. I don't know. But that's my thought, is Drew has a bigger opponent for WrestleMania, probably Brock or John Cena. The other side of the coin with SmackDown, again, I haven't seen Friday Night SmackDown, so this is not as easy to pick. I would say Cesaro wins the chamber. We have a beaten, exhausted Cesaro face Roman Reigns, get a couple of hope spots. Ultimately, he's screwed by Jey Uso or Jimmy Uso or Apollo Crews, who we all forgot had a conversation with Roman Reigns a few weeks ago on SmackDown in the locker room that all just got glossed over. But perhaps there's some kind of hook or crook way that Roman Reigns retains against Cesaro at WrestleMania. And then, perhaps, this is why I said that people may need to get excited about Cesaro. Since he gets screwed, he has to fight, scratch, and claw his way back to getting a number one contendership for the Universal Championship, to get his revenge against Roman Reigns all the way to WrestleMania, where it is Cesaro versus Roman Reigns at WrestleMania. That right now is my pick for WrestleMania. Roman Reigns versus Cesaro at WrestleMania. That is my hope and my dream. I know that you say that they've done so much damage over the years, but as of late, he feels like he's sort of coming into his own. And we all know and respect how good he's in the ring, and the announcers are getting behind him, and they've laid a foundation. So that's my pick right now. That could change after Friday, but how about that? Thank you, Mr. Gardner. You are always a welcome voice on the show. Okay, let's keep this train going.
Hi, it's Kyle from Baltimore, Maryland. I want to say that, about, first of all, Roman Reigns and Sasha Banks. Roman Reigns, to me, that I've seen and heard for other people in the past when that people didn't like his character because that was naturally a heel than a face. I guess I could never see that. I enjoy Roman Reigns, whatever he was, a heel or face, it didn't matter to me. But now all of a sudden, when he's a heel, everybody loves him all of a sudden. That's such a double standard to me, I feel like. And then same thing with Sasha Banks. If she's ends up being a heel, you'll like her, but as a babyface, she's terrible to you. I think that's such a double standard. You either like the person or you don't. You can't. It shouldn't matter if they are a heel or a face. You should, if you like the person, you should like them for whatever whatever character they're playing. So I just think you just don't like Sasha Banks because you just don't. You just say you're not a fan of hers because it doesn't make any sense to me. So that's how I feel about it. You will have probably an opinion about it, but that's how I take it away from your argument and situation with Sasha. But that was it. Thanks for our call. Bye.
Hey, Kyle. So, okay, I'm going to try to not make this super long because this show's getting pretty lengthy and I'm flat out tired. However, that being said, I do want to make my case here. So I understand what you're saying about a double standard and you like the person or I don't. But how about they do their job or they don't? Some characters, are just meant to be heels. Not everybody should just go along with what WWE spoon feeds them and say, oh, well, I like them, so I'm going to go with whatever they are. If you're a fan that likes the person behind the character, then sure, you'll go along with whatever they are because you like them as an actual person in real life. And you'll just kind of go with, okay, they're a heel, I'm going to boo them. They're a babyface, I'm going to cheer them. But I, as a fan, have the choice to decide whether or not they're doing a good job in that role. And it is always, and people can say that this is too simple and it's antiquated. It is still good versus evil. And it always will be. So the dynamic of heel versus babyface will never get old. Ever. Ever. It's the same thing in stories, in movies, in books, in TV shows. It's always good versus evil more often than not. That's the center of the story at its absolute core, and in its simplest form, it's usually good versus evil. Pro wrestling is no different, nor will it ever get old in that dynamic. Now, Roman Reigns as a babyface saying that, it's double standard and then you're a heel and then you like them. No, I am saying I like them as a heel because it feels way more natural. And I wouldn't go to the arena and cheer him for doing a great job as a heel. Too often in WWE's pro wrestling environment, people would cheer somebody for doing such a great job as a heel. That's not a true heel then. You're just trying to get... You're the cool heel. That's not what the original definition of a heel is. You're trying to get hated. That's not what I'm saying is. Like, in other words, your double standard would be, if I think Roman Reigns is doing a great job as a heel, I would cheer him. And if he's a babyface, I would boo him. Which is what a lot of people in the actual industry think what would happen and thought would happen when Seth Rollins turned heel. Yet people still booed him. So if you're doing your damn job and doing it well and literally go for boos and hatred, then there is no double standard because I would go along with your character. But if I don't believe in your character, I'm not going to fake a reaction. You either do a damn good job or you don't. And if you're doing a good job as a heel, like Randy Orton did over the summer, killing it as a heel, but I had legitimate hatred for his character. That doesn't happen that often anymore. Roman Reigns, same thing. I want to see somebody take his head off. As a babyface, I hated his babyface character. Yes, I hated babyface character a lot because I was told by WWE that you need to like this person. You need to cheer for this guy and this character. He was so uninspiring as a babyface. So double standard, I don't think is the right term. Maybe a better way to phrase it is that you boo both versions of Roman Reigns. Yes, I did. I have yet to cheer for Roman Reigns, but that's a hell of a compliment given his current role as a heel because he's correctly cast. He's always, and why is he seeing so much success right now? Because he sucked as a babyface. More often than not, you hear the reactions from people. The night after WrestleMania 33, when he beat The Undertaker, You want to hear true fan reaction and built up hatred for his babyface character? Go watch Monday Night Raw after WrestleMania 33. Just it was music to my soul that night, because it's a rejection of the portrayal of the Roman Reigns babyface character and how we're supposed to like this character. It's not a double standard to boo a babyface and also boo his heel character. If you're booing the heel character, that means he's doing his job. If you're booing his babyface character, that means that he's either miscast or he's not doing his job, or both. Sasha Banks, kind of same thing. It doesn't mean I don't like Sasha Banks as a performer. I think she's awesome in the ring. I think she's really good on the ring. I think she's really good on the mic for a heel. Again, the problem is you can't convince me and I can't convince you to have the opposite feeling about Roman Reigns or Sasha Banks as a babyface. I'm never going to convince you that her babyface character is terrible and that it really is not relatable and it's obnoxious. And you're never going to convince me that she's great and we should always cheer her no matter what. It's not going to happen. I mean, I don't want to get into that because it's really going to be difficult to convince one or the other. It's more of just, you like her as a babyface and you'll cheer her. I wouldn't. I mean, let's just boil it down to that, because that's what wrestling's all about. You know, that's why certain fans boo and certain fans cheer, and it's very hard to get a unanimous character that people all love or people all hate. It's very difficult. Very difficult. I just don't like the way that they've portrayed Sasha Banks, because I like logic. We never got an explanation why we're supposed to like her. Never. She hasn't changed at all since she's been with Bayley. And she was dumb enough to not see the turn coming. So am I supposed to feel sympathetic for your lack of intelligence for seeing that coming? And she hasn't changed at all. She's still got the obnoxious, again, the head shaking, kind of like, I'm the boss. Okay, you're not the boss. What exactly are you the boss of? You know, like, I have no problem with the character, the way she's developed it. I just don't like the way it's cast. She is a heel. She's obnoxious. She does not come off likable or relatable. Again, you completely disagree with me. That's why wrestling is the most subjective sport of all time. Just like movies. Why do you think some people love and some people hate movies? Because we all look at things differently. So, this is fun, Kyle. I got to say, like, you know, our weekly conversations about Sasha Banks and or Roman Reigns, they're getting fun. Okay, all right. Well, let's continue on, guys. We're almost done through the voicemails here.
Hey, Matt, I'm the casual wrestling fan here. I just want to go over a couple points, as I always do. First, for all the people, don't go crazy on my social media. I did not call Edge a junkie. I said he looks like a junkie. Big difference. I'm not questioning if he does drugs. I hope he don't. I'm pretty sure he don't. And he just don't look in good shape to me. Number two, Matt, I love your show, bro. You know, last week I wasn't critiquing your show or critiquing your style. I was critiquing about, you know, what I liked about or didn't like about what you were saying about the phrases. That's not a shot on the show. I love the show. I love your rants because you show a difference of opinion. Even if I disagree with your rant or if I agree with your rant, it still shows a different side of said rant. Number three, I know on the show you was like, who is this Lacey Evans and Charlotte Flair feud for? It's for me. The casual wrestling fan loves this feud. I look forward to it every week. I love when Ric Flair come out to his week. I love it. You know what I mean? Me as a casual wrestling fan, my wife, she hates it. She's on the total opposite field. She hates the situation. She hates it. But I love it personally. And with that being said, congratulations to Lacey Evans, pregnant with her second child, which, you know, they said it's true. You know, I don't know if that's a rumor or a fact or not, but I did hear that. And so, you know, congratulations to her, assuming it's true. Number three, I feel like, the Bad Bunny situation, give Bad Bunny a chance. Only reason why I say that is because if you look, he's not really doing big offensive moves. I mean, he did a splash, Tim Morrison, over the head with a microphone. Who can't do that? So I'm okay with it because he's not out here doing suplexes and all that. Even when he won the 24/7 championship, I mean, Damian Priest did the heavy lifting. He just got on them covered. I don't mind that. You know what I mean? And on the flip side, you know, on Raw Talk, you talked about Money Mayweather trying to be, you know, a face. That's impossible. Because Money Mayweather's a heel in boxing. So it's crazy to think you could correlate that to him being a face in the wrestling. That's crazy. Let me go on to my promo of the week. I don't know if you've seen the Sheamus promo on Raw Talk, but I'm thinking Sheamus. I mean, he led a good promo. I love it. You know, and the same thing for Cesaro on Talking Smack. I don't watch SmackDown, as you know, but Cesaro, I don't know if he's heel, if he's face. I don't know nothing, you know, because I haven't watched SmackDown in a while. But that promo he left was incredible. I was out of my chair saying, woo, I believe in Cesaro. You know what I mean? I don't know if it's a good one. Yes, it's a good promo on Raw as well. So that's my little take on this week. And by the way, hopefully Drew does lose the belt. I don't care if the Miz cashes in and takes it. And I know y'all don't want to hear that, but I hope he loses. I need for him to drop it. I'm tired of it. He's been champ almost a year. And I'm tired of it. Period. But that's all I got for this week. And you guys have a great rest of your week.
Oh, got a little nervous that you weren't on our voicemail list, Mr. Casual Wrestling Fan. It's good to hear from you. Yes, thank you for the clarification about Edge looking like a junkie, not being a junkie. Yeah, if I said that you said that he was a junkie, I probably shouldn't have said that. Again, I record these shows like, midnight or later on most days after a long day of actual, work and everything else and recording another show. So, my apologies if I did actually say that, because I know that that's not what you meant. Now, about our differences and critiques. Yeah, I mean, look, like, there's wrestling shows all out there that if you want to hear different styles and things, absolutely. I encourage people to listen to other wrestling podcasts. As long as you listen to ours, of course. But that's what's great. Like, there's so much variety out there, and it's just my rants sometimes go off the rails. I repeat myself a lot. That's unfortunately a downside or an upside, depending on how you look at it. It's just kind of who I am. And this show is no punches pulled at all. I mean, we lay it out there, and yes, we go off the rails. Yes, we talk about things that maybe we shouldn't rant about or talk about before actually talking about the damn topic that the show is named for. We had a few complaints. Oh, you guys talk too much. Just get to the point. I understand that. I get it. But this show is a very, very unscripted show. We don't run on a script here. So, but I think that's good. Your points about Bad Bunny. Yeah, here's the thing. Bad Bunny, you guys have heard my thoughts on him, my complaints about him, and he hasn't done a whole lot of offensive moves yet. That's my problem. Yet. I think it's coming. I don't think he'll have a full-fledged match. He doesn't look like he's in ring shape at all. But my problem is that we're going to have somebody selling for him at WrestleMania, and somebody's going to go down at WrestleMania, and he'll, like you said, maybe Damian Priest to do the heavy lifting, and he'll come in and get the pin, do a couple of moves, look like a big shot, and leave. That's the problem I have. That's the path I think WWE is taking, is that they're going to make him look like $1 million, and whoever he's facing in a tag match or maybe at ringside screwing somebody, that person's going to be left with egg on their face, and Bad Bunny's gone off doing a new record deal or touring after WrestleMania. So that's my problem. Yes, he hasn't done a whole lot of offensive moves, but the key word is yet, because we're clearly building to a WrestleMania event or something that he's involved with at WrestleMania. So no, I haven't seen the Sheamus Raw Talk promo. I probably should have. I will go check it out, so I'm not going to comment on it because I haven't seen it. But Mr. Casual Wrestling Fan, always good to hear from you. Always good to hear your honesty. I love it. Difference of opinion is always a fun thing to do. At the end of the day, guys, it's pro wrestling. It's a sandbox. We shouldn't take it too seriously like it's the end of our lives, as much as I rant about it passionately and truly, that at the end of the day, this is all fun stuff. It's all fun and games that we're talking about, guys. And that's what's great, because we can get lost in this world that doesn't really matter. Did I just devalue my entire show? I hope not. Okay. A couple more and we'll close out the show here.
How you doing? This is Trey from Maryland. I'm a first-time caller. My question is, I actually wanted your opinion. I feel that in the Elimination Chamber for the WWE Championship, I got a feeling that Randy Orton is probably going to come out and be the winner. Only because I feel that because this could be the right time for the Fiend to reappear, to make a presence. I just want your opinion of, can you see that happening? Only because I feel, the Fiend's motto is, life comes in a circle. And if you remember, I want to say it was either 2017 or 2018 when Randy Orton had won the Royal Rumble. And then the very next pay-per-view was the Elimination Chamber. And Bray Wyatt ended up capturing the WWE Championship from John Cena. So I just want to know if you could see that happening. Just wanted your opinion. Again, this is Trey from Maryland. I'm a first-time caller. Thank you.
Hey, Trey. Always good to hear a new voice on the show. And by the way, if you want to join Trey, you can do that. 518-952-0247. 518-952-0247 if you want to also chime in and speak up. Good theory. Good question. You know, I haven't even really considered Randy Orton winning the Elimination Chamber match. I haven't. But it may not be a bad theory, because it would also free Drew McIntyre up for a match that doesn't involve the championship at WrestleMania. There go. It kind of opens up more options, maybe for other legends to return that wouldn't necessarily, nor should they get a championship opportunity against Drew McIntyre. Namely John Cena. Again, my John Cena theory will probably not pan out, but I'm sticking with it until it just collapses in on me. But Randy Orton winning, I think, is not bad, because you could have him win and then also face The Fiend. The question then becomes, do you really want The Fiend becoming WWE Champion? That said, they've also focused most of their main event energy on The Fiend and Randy Orton and Alexa Bliss. So that would lead you to believe that whatever they're doing here, they would continue that main event energy through WrestleMania, in which Randy Orton should capture the WWE Championship. I really don't have a problem with this. That's a good damn theory. Randy Orton is champion. Is that the most interesting thing? Not really. But he's a really, really good heel. He's right now finished things up with Edge. I wouldn't want to see a Drew versus Randy Orton match at WrestleMania, but maybe you put them in a three-way. Maybe you put Drew versus Randy versus The Fiend. The only problem I have with that is you're kind of muddying The Fiend versus Randy Orton. But eventually we have to see The Fiend versus Drew. Boy, you've completely upended my theory. You're messing with my head this late in the night, man. You're screwing with me, because I had things so set, and you're uprooting everything that I thought I knew. My whole world is upside down now. So I don't know which way is up. Thanks so much, Trey. Please call back if you wish. Okay. Here comes, last but not least, and I really have no idea who this is, the final voicemail of the night. So if the voicemail is not good, I don't mean to be this the finale, but we'll see who this is. I'm sure that this is a fun one. It's from it looks like it's out of the country. It has a 6-1 attached to it. So let's see who this is to close out the show.
Oh, hey, Matt, it's Devin from Australia. Hope you're well over there. Thanks, by the way, for the nice bit of JBL nostalgia at the end of last week's voicemail. That made me smile. I enjoyed that. So I'm looking forward to the nostalgia this week. So thank you. My question today, I think, is I'm pretty much really tired of the Charlotte Flair character. She doesn't do a babyface very well, so she's a bit like Sasha Banks, where they don't do babyface. They basically still sound like a heel. So, but I'm also, like, we all know Charlotte's probably going to turn at some stage. But I find her heel character redundant and repetitive. It's just the same thing, bow down to the Queen. And I think in a way that maybe she could refresh this is, I'm not sure, if she somehow gets the Raw Women's Championship, she can make it relevant again and bring it to the island of relevancy, as Roman Reigns would say. But she somehow needs to enlist some followers, whether it's some discarded woman on the Raw roster. Maybe, the following, I think, really could be made relevant if they did this. Peyton Royce, Dana Brooke, and Mandy Rose. If she could somehow, I'm not sure how they could work it, but get them to be her followers or her lackeys, a bit like the Roman Reigns angle on SmackDown. At least on Raw, this would keep it separate and not be too same, I suppose. But then she would basically have people who would bow down to the Queen and maybe do a bit of her nasty work for her, because her heel character is boring. It's been the same for years. So I think some type of freshening up would be nice, and it would probably make it interesting again. and then if she's running the show in that manner, and then hopefully Rhea Ripley gets drafted onto Raw and could then challenge Charlotte, because that would be awesome. Anyway, that's just my thoughts. Would love to know your thoughts on it, but yeah, I think Charlotte needs a heel character refresh. Thanks again for everything. You do a great job, mate. Bye.
I lied. That's a great way to end the show. Devin from Australia. Awesome. Thank you for calling in. You actually got the voicemail in just as I was recording this show, so you just made the cut. Yeah, the JBL thing. As you saw, I just posted my Wrestling Nostalgia. I really completely forgot about JBL. So what I'm going to do is set a reminder on my phone so that next week I cut a JBL Wrestling Nostalgia. It's totally worth it. I agree. I'm glad you enjoyed the JBL music last week. But my bad. I did say I was going to do it this week. I will do it next week, as I already had a different topic. But JBL, absolutely worth a full Wrestling Nostalgia look at his run on SmackDown as champion. Yeah, okay, so good point about Charlotte Flair. We all agree she's better as a heel. But even though she's better as a heel, that doesn't mean she can't improve her heel character. I totally agree with that point. She does get a little bit like a broken record where, okay, bow down to the queen. She has the same mannerisms, same promos, all of that. I agree. So yeah, she does need maybe, again, a faction, a stable. The problem is that we've seen heels try to gather followers that don't stick around for a while. I mean, even the King Corbin, didn't have his recruits stick around. So whatever recruiting agency that Corbin went to, I would advise that Charlotte Flair stays away from that particular entity. Same with Seth Rollins, the Messiah, who has to have followers. If you're a Messiah, how do you not have followers, right? Most of the time that he was the Messiah, he didn't have followers. Murphy was in and out. AOP got injured. So that was ridiculous. And it was really a shame that Seth didn't have a more potent run with a stable. So I agree, but we've seen it time and again that they put heels together and they don't stick. The Hurt Business is an exception. I would agree that they're not even heels, but as they're booked on paper, they're heels. I would agree that they're more the exception than the rule. But I'm with you. I'm fine with it as long as there's a plan to have, like you said, Dana Brooke, Liv Morgan, Mandy Rose, whoever, join Charlotte in this adventure. And I know that, again, I mentioned some SmackDown stars crossing over to Raw, but WWE doesn't care. They violate their draft rules on a weekly basis. But certainly, if you're looking at only Raw, you could have Mandy Rose on that card, Dana Brooke on that card. Yeah, I think that they would be great talent underneath the wing of Charlotte to at least get weekly exposure. I'm with you. And yes, she needs a refresh badly if she goes back heel, when she goes back heel. But here, food for thought, as I mentioned earlier in the show. What if she doesn't go heel and Asuka goes heel and tries to avenge her loss to Charlotte a couple of years ago for taking the SmackDown Women's Championship away from her weeks before WrestleMania? Maybe Asuka tries to turn heel. I think that's a big mistake. But perhaps that's another way to think, because WWE knows that fans are waiting for Charlotte to turn heel and waiting for the other shoe to drop. And when Vince senses that, what does Vince do a lot of times? He does the opposite. Whether it's the right thing to do or not, he sometimes does the opposite just for simply the swerve, which is a bad, shallow reason to do it. But I could see it happening. So be on the lookout for possibly Asuka turning on Charlotte. Doesn't always have to be waiting for Charlotte to turn heel. Maybe they actually try full bore with the Charlotte babyface. I don't think that's going to work, but I could be wrong. It's okay. Thank you, Devin, for the comment, the question, and I promise I'll get to JBL next week. It's already in my phone. Alrighty, everybody. Probably our longest mailbag ever, but I anticipate maybe even longer next week with the Elimination Chamber and the review and all the fallout that comes with that. So get your questions in at realwwepodcast@gmail.com, your reactions, your rants, keep it PG. Or, again, call in to the show after the pay-per-view, 518-952-0247. If you want to get your calls in and your reactions, new voices are always welcome. Of course, the regular callers are also much appreciated. So thank you, everybody who takes the time to write like people are actually writing me letters, to type an email. I know it does take time and thought, and of course, even call us. You have 3 minutes, those that call in, and it'll cut you off, but 3 minutes is a fairly decent amount of time on a show. So, all right, everybody, as always, thank you so much. I'll be back Saturday night. Yes, Saturday night with a co-host to go through in depth my official predictions with my co-host yet to be named for the preview and prediction of Elimination Chamber. So until then, take care, and I'll talk to you next time.